you awake after that great first session in lunch?
Yes.
I got to thank you for saying Lisa Heiser Harrington. I use my middle initial in my website, lisahharrington.com, to honor my father, whose last name is Heiser, and who taught me an awful lot about business. My mom taught me an awful lot about sales, and so here I am. So I use my middle name just for that reason, my maiden name. I'm very excited to be here today. I want to thank Suzanne for offering me this spot. We're going to talk about leadership, and I decided that next level made sense given the title of our workshop, right, today. It's next level leadership today. You can get anything you need to know about me on that website if you're interested in knowing why they invited me up here, or you can grab some stuff at my table. But I want to focus on what we can do, not just as women. This really works for everybody. So the guys in the room, you got to stay awake. Stay with us. We can do so much with leadership to create a better world around us, to create a better business, to create a better community, and to help people around us. And I use the next because I think the words NEXT fit for the kinds of messages I want to send you today and the things I want to talk to you about. And first I want to talk about nurturing. Now, for all you mothers in there, especially those of you with teenagers, this is not about babying people. This is not about nurturing the next generation that they call the X generation or the Y generation, about how to set their alarm clock. Has anyone sat through those presentations? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about nurturing human beings, real human beings who just need to understand that we're all human and there's a lot that we all need to help each other. It's not just about babying someone. We're all adults here. This is not high school. I have to say that, unfortunately, occasionally in different groups. But understanding that humanity is a quality and not a detriment. It's good that we're human and we have foibles and we have things that we need to deal with. But as managers and leaders, we need to accept that and help people to move past those problems, which is part of what we'll talk about today. And no matter what management style you use, whether you've studied the stuff in college 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 40 years ago, or I won't tell you how many years ago I did it, because I am one of the older ladies. People are just people. You're always going to deal with the fact that we don't change that much as human beings. The introductory section of my book talks about how, things move really fast, but humans just don't change that much. We don't. We're the same now as we were 100 years ago or 500 years ago in terms of the way our brain works, the way our heart works, the kind of needs that we have as human beings. So nurturing each other is part of that whole thing. We talked about some of this already this morning. Some of our speakers already talked about how we need to help each other. We need to step up for each other. And because women are newer in the business world right now, because women are just stepping out, just now, I think we said over 60% of new businesses are being started by women. How cool is that? How cool that we are now 51% of the workforce. That's pretty new information. It's a couple years old, right? You can clap. It's okay. That's a good statistic. Nurturing is important, though, when you remember that people are going to be somewhere in Maslow's pyramid all the time. Who knows Maslow's? Show me who's awake out there. You know Maslow's? Okay. So Maslow's pyramid is a concept that's been around for decades and decades. And the idea is that at the bottom layer of the pyramid, you have basic physical needs. Food, water, shelter, sex, right? Yeah. You gotta have that. I got a yes out of that one. Gotta have that. If you don't have air, what are you thinking about? Dying? No, you're thinking about air. Right? Or you're gonna die, right? There are some basics that without them, we can't think about anything else. That's just a fact. And then we move up the level to having shelter and having social ability. And finally, we become at the top of the pyramid what we call self-actualized, which means we are now available to help others. And our good self-actualization sort of spills over the top of that pyramid, which I think is why he drew it as a pyramid. Here's the thing. If you don't know a lot about Maslow, if you haven't studied it, it's still valid today because humans don't change that much. And if you don't know where your team is on Maslow's pyramid at any given time, you can't possibly lead them properly because they're going to need something different if they're at the top of the pyramid than if they're at the bottom. So take a minute. It's one little pyramid, one easy read. It's not a long book or anything. Take a minute, look it up. It's all over Google. Know how that works so that when you're leading people, anybody in your care, in your charge, you can know where they are on that pyramid and figure out how to best help them, okay? Given that you are the one studying Maslow and figuring out where your people are as a leader, you're the one who has to do the changing and be the chameleon. Sometimes, as humans, because it's normal for humans, we want it to be all about us, right? That's fun. Sometimes, when I work with CEOs, which is what I do, I'm a coach, sometimes they're so all about them because they're so excited. I finally made it. I'm at the top. I did it. I'm the boss. You know? Not about you. Still not about you. Never was, never will be. The boss is the owner, gets to make decisions like, we heard this morning, what products do I want to sell? What do I want to go do for a business? That's great. That's all you. But when you're trying to lead someone else, you have to do it the way they need you to do it, so they can hear you. Again, part of the human equation. What's our favorite thing to talk about? Ourselves, right? We like to talk about ourselves. So that networking piece, perfect this morning. I love that. Thank you so much. It was great to hear that because we need to be just sharing who we are and be vulnerable. We're going to talk about that in Mind too. So 3 of us talking about vulnerability today. How about that? And we need to listen to what they have to say. Adjust to what your people need when you're trying to be a leader. And I just don't believe that it's all about the generations. It's somewhat about the generations. It's somewhat about how people were raised, or it's somewhat about how people were given too much, or not enough was given to them, or they were latchkey kids, or they came up in the Great Generation, which is an amazing generation. But I think at different times in our lives, we need different things. So our marketing speaker earlier said, she's not with it, I think she had to leave, but she said, well, the only time I see 5 a.m. is because I stayed up all night. Well, we all did that at one point in our lives, right? That was how we all did it. I don't do that anymore. I do get up at 5, but I'm in bed by 9:30. You don't do that anymore. As you get older, things change. Your priorities change. Having a baby changes things. Having a family changes things. So the nurture that your folks need as you're bringing them along is going to be different if their life changes. And so it goes all the way back to knowing them better than you know yourself. Talking to people about who they are and adjusting as the leader to what they need from you. It does sound a little bit like parenting, although I can't speak on that. I'm not a parent. But I think that just knowing that your own style can be adapted to whatever that person needs, as long as you're willing to exchange information, which we're about to talk about. But you see the word self-care on there? How many of you really, really, really practice self-care? 5% of the room. How many of you have been on an airplane? Raise them high. Show me your weight. Almost everybody in the room has been on an airplane. What's the stewardess say about the air mask?
Put it on yourself first.
Put your mask on first before you try to help others. Why is that? You can't help anybody if you're dead. You're no good to anybody if you're dead or sick or debilitated. We have to take care of ourselves first. Now, that's tough. If you're a mom, I hear this all the time. Well, my kids need me first. My husband needs me first. My parents need me first. We're still in that sandwich generation, right? Well, how good are you to them if you're not healthy? Never mind how good are you in your business. How good are you? So as a Vistage chair, we are taught to talk about self-care every single monthly meeting. Because it's so easy to fall out of the habit and all of a sudden we're taking care of everybody but you. It's not selfish. I see some tears, actually. I love that. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's actually the loving thing to do for your family and for your employees. Take care of yourself so that you can be more effective in taking care of them. Now the E in next is engage. And there was some conversation about the article I want to reference. Harvard Business Review, 1974, maybe 76, I can't remember, but a long time ago. For some of you before you were born. Who's Got the Monkey was the name of the article. And it was based on a phrase we used to use about the monkey on our back, the burden on our back. And it was a wonderful article about how, as a leader, we tend to get caught up in solving everybody's problems. Walking down the hall, in our office, or at home, somebody comes to us and says they have a problem. And our tendency, I think maybe more as women than men, maybe not, depends on who you are. Our tendency is, let me fix that for you. Let me take that problem for you. But that's not good delegation. And that doesn't just hurt you because now you have all the burdens, you have all the chores on your back because you've agreed to solve all these things. But it's also a burden on the person you're taking it away from. Are they learning anything? You're solving all their problems? See what I mean? How it sometimes sounds like parenting? So what's an alternative? Well, how about instead of being a hero all the time, we say, I hear you that you have a problem. I will help you choose a solution when you bring me 3 solutions from which to choose. Don't take the problem and say, I'll get to you next week and figure that out for you. I bet you Lauren will talk about this a little bit in her class this afternoon because she talks about delegating and priorities. I highly recommend that section. So if you have a tendency to do that, if you like to be the hero and save people and do that thing where everybody's problem can come to you and you'll fix it, realize that you're actually shortchanging that person learning those lessons. And it's better to tell them you'll help them figure out what to do next. Also engaging is keeping everyone engaged in the purpose of your work or your mission and keeping your purpose public. Now we talked about that a little bit this morning, about knowing who you are and what you want to do and how to pick the right thing for yourself. Keep everyone who works for you or with you, including vendors and others, engaged in the purpose of your mission. This is my favorite thing. I do vision mapping sessions and strategic planning sessions. I love that as workshopping. Because you pull in people from all over the building to figure out what's the real purpose, and then keep them engaged with visual aids and talk about it. Change the language you use even around your building to match what your purpose is, and how did you write those words when you wrote your value statement or your vision, any of that stuff. Keep it public. Make sure everyone knows what it is. Write it appropriately so that it can be on your website. Because the more engaged everyone is in it, the more they own it, the more they're going to move towards it for you. Think about who's building your strategy. Who do you have involved building your strategic plan? A lot of you are newer businesses. You're just figuring out about business plans and all that. Who do you need to have involved? Who are your champions? Who represents everyone down the line of your organization? Who can you grab that will represent that? If you're still a solopreneur, that's fine, it's great. Pull in those people that can have that perspective for you. So when you're building your strategy, you represent everyone. You might even call in some potential clients. Okay, I'm just building this new business. You're going to be one of the types of people that I want to talk to. How should I phrase this? How should I do this? Engage as many people in your network as you can. Look around the room at each other. Who you got next to you? Think they might be willing to take a phone call? You think? Yeah, Kayla says yes. She'll take your call, won't you? Talk to each other. If you're building a strategy and a business plan and you've got a score and you've got it all done, but now you want to figure out that wording around it, you've got a room full of friends here that are going to help you. Engagement at an office, at a manufacturing plant, at home, has to include play. Who likes to play? Yeah, I've got almost all the hands. We got a couple funny ones. They didn't raise their hand. They don't like to play. What's up? We all like to play. Some people just don't feel like raising their hands. Play regularly on schedule. This is part of self-care personally, but it's also part of managing your people once you have staff, because if you don't engage them in play and schedule it, guess what's going to happen? They're going to play anyway. They're going to play anyway. They're going to do it around the water cooler. They're going to play on their phone at their desk. Guess that happens a lot these days. Play's going to happen. People need it. Now let's talk about why it's so important. I think it's worth taking a minute on this one. Our brains need that distraction and that play. So if you want to bring out the best, most creative parts of your own brain, the best, most creative parts of anybody that works with you, anybody you lead, play is important. It's not frivolous. Although there are generations and types of people that would say it is frivolous and never do it at work and totally separate work and play. But that's not true. Creativity comes with play. Every time you do something that's a little bit outside your comfort zone, every time you push just a little bit, you create a new pathway in your brain. If you do the same thing over and over and over and you never vary your routine, there's a rut, literally a rut, a crevice in your brain that gets deeper and deeper. It's harder and harder to change your behavior if you don't occasionally mix it up. That's why, everybody knows about cross-training, right, for your physical body. Same idea for your brain. Do something different. Because if you don't, you'll get in a rut, you'll get dry, but also at work with your charges, the people you lead, they're going to play whether you do it intentionally or not. The X, with all apologies to Webster and the dictionary, is for exchange. The X in next is for exchange. Clarifying expectations, exchanging information. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Just talk to people. We don't, though. We don't. We tend to think that everybody understands what we thought we just said. There's this long, funny poem about that. I don't have it memorized. But if you think you said something the right way and that you're sure they understood, still take a minute and say, what did you just hear me say? You might be surprised. They might get it. They might have said, you said you wanted me to do A, B, and C. Okay. But sometimes they'll answer back and, oh, no, that's not what I said at all. Let me try again. Whose responsibility is it to make sure that a message is heard? I got this up here. Somebody's saying, yeah, yours. If you're the one trying to speak to somebody, it's your responsibility. There's a study out of UCLA. Some people that have seen me speak in here before, there's a dozen of you that I have spoken in front of before. This is so awesome. But anyway, you've heard me say 55%, 38%, 7%. 55% of the message you convey to others around you is your body language. 38% of the message you convey to others around you is your tone of voice. Only 7% has anything to do with the words you choose. Think about that. What does that mean for text and email? Very poor forms of communication. It's why emojis have exploded the world over. Because we're trying to convey that facial expression, that body language, in a text or an email. It's tough, isn't it? I'll do one quick example of that. Who knows the show Friends? So when Ross walked up to a young lady and said, how you doing? He just wanted to know how she was. But Joey, how you doing? Tone of voice, body language, completely different message, the same words. Be sure that you're clarifying what you want. Because if you aren't helping people to see where you want to go, how will they get there? Exchange your values, your vision, your mission. Be in the 20% of American companies that even has strategy and a plan. Think about that. You guys should all have a strategy and a plan because you're being coached by SCORE, and they're great at this. So We got 20% in the room? No, we probably have 60, 70, 80% in this room that have a strategy and a plan. But in America, it's only 20%. And guess what? A significant portion of that 20% writes the plan and sticks it in a drawer somewhere. And they don't work around it, they don't execute on it. You'd be so much further ahead just with that one little step. And you know the old story about the two guys that were being chased by a bear? Don't have to be faster than the bear. You only have to be faster than the guy behind you, running from the bear. So if you can do the vision, values, and mission, if you can have a really good strategic plan, you're already ahead because you're in the 20%. The other thing about the letter X for exchange is don't X change. Don't knock out change. Don't say no to change. The Chinese proverb is keep doing the same thing over and over thinking you're going to get different results. That is the definition of insanity. Change. Change or die. On a cellular level, if we don't change, we die. We know this, right? We know it in our heads. It's tough to change what we're doing, especially when you're a newer business. And you go, I just started all this. What do you mean I'm going to change it? Well, let me do it in 6 months. Well, you're learning stuff. You're figuring stuff out. You got to be okay with trying all different things. I said to someone recently, I introduced myself as 5 or 6 or 8 different things. A couple of you in the chamber with me heard me calling myself all different things until I landed on strategic coach. Because I love to coach and everything I do surrounds strategy of a business. But I spent months seeing what worked, testing it out, trying it, changing, until I landed on something. And 5 years from now, that might not be the words I use either. We've got to be okay with change. Because what got you here won't get you there. It won't get you to the next step. And please feel free to talk about yourself. We talked about vulnerability in 2 of the other presentations today. What do you think that means? Pretty important. So we've been taught as women for decades to be like the guys. I worked for an insurance company that I will not name that made us wear 4 colors, brown, black, navy, pinstripe. Any of them could be pinstripe. We could do gray. The women were required, get this, to wear a ribbon around their neck under their collared shirt to emulate a tie. Awesome. Ew. We were taught to be like the men because they didn't know any different. That's what they'd done all those years. And I've been in the business. I'm the oldest of the speakers, just so you know. 35 years of doing this. They didn't know any better. Now what we know is to be yourself. Be vulnerable. Be true to you. I want to say this real clear. You are never just. You're not just a new business. You're not just a solopreneur. You're not just a customer service rep. You are enough. You are strong and wonderful. And being vulnerable, the tears I saw earlier, that's good. That makes you human. That makes you understand your customer better and your employee better and your family better when you recognize you can be vulnerable and survive and thrive. It's what we want. Thriving and surviving, that's what we want. Finally, 5 T's of trust. We need to talk less and communicate more in order to earn the trust of our people that we lead, whoever that is. Talking to the people, using the 2 ears more than we use the 1 mouth God gave us, right? We've all heard that one. Just talking, just sharing information, but also training someone appropriately and positively, and making sure that it's okay, that they understand what they're supposed to be doing. And then I get a lot of kickback when I say we need to track what our people are doing. Well, thought you said you trusted me. Why are you tracking me? What's that about? Anybody ever gotten that pushback? I see some heads nodding. If I don't track it, how can I properly reward you? If I don't track it, how can I see where there might be a problem happening and fix it? If I don't track what you're doing, how do I know that we're going to hit our marks and our goals that we all said, all of us have said, we need to hit, that we need to write down? And thanking people. Literally worked for a boss once who I asked him to please come and thank my crew for something they had done. He said, well, I paid them, didn't I?
Oh.
Yeah, that's not how we do this. That's not how you're going to do it. It's not how I do it. It's not how he does it anymore either. He learned. Thank the people around you. Handwritten thank you cards are a thing of the past. When I get one, I just devour it. I keep it. Such a cool thing. Even when they're your staff, even when you're paying them. And that all leads to trusting. So we also have to trust ourselves, though. Scary thought. I can trust me. I just started doing this. I've been a consultant for 9 years. Some days I still think, ooh, that's a hard one I've got to deal with today, right? But trust yourself. Trust your gut. Because you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. That's okay. Your method won't be my method. The 3 people at that table right there, they'll all do it differently. But trust in yourself to pick the right solutions. That's about confidence. That's about preparation. What did we say? Plan, prepare, prosper. Some wording like that was said earlier. You've got to make sure that you're picking the right things for you. But guess what? Your team isn't all perfect either. Sometimes people make mistakes on the job. And to the greatest extent possible, let's turn that into lessons. Let's turn that into learning. Let's turn it into finding better solutions in education. Now, if somebody makes the same mistake over and over again, you might have a bad fit. We got to deal with it. But sometimes the training was wrong, not the staff person. Sometimes we just have to take our mistakes and learn from them and move on. Because we don't learn unless we make mistakes. It's the number one way that our brains keep information is when we mess it up and then we have to fix it. Right? You guys all have experienced this. That 1-year-old baby who touches the hot stove, hard stuff, doesn't touch it again. Right? That's the mistake. They learn from it. So we can do that at work. We can turn our mistakes into education. And finally, and then I hope I have time for questions, we will keep our priorities straight if we remember that it's all about the people. Not just those people out there, but this people right here. It's about you too. You are one of those people that needs nurture, that needs to have communication, that needs to exchange information, needs to engage in your life, in your family, in your work. Make sure the priorities are straight. Remember where the mask goes. We can all talk to each other. I've got the amazing Fanny Dunnigan sitting down here videoing this presentation, which we will share, and I will support SCORE by putting all of the hashtags and all over it. I want you to think about those relationships. I met her at a networking event. We hit it off. I've got a dozen people in the room I met. We've been working together. We're helping each other. That's what this is about. If we remember it's about all of us, then we all win. Thank you. Any questions?